Hey, everybody. Let me know if y'all can hear me. Hey, good people, come on up in here. Come on up in this place right now. All right. Let me know if y'all can hear me. Let me know. Let me know. Let me know. Let me know. Let me know if you. Okay. She said we can hear me. Hey, y'all. What's going on? I'm super excited over a few things today. First, I just found out that the state responded, y'all, already. They are not playing. Hold on, y'all. I got to go grab me something to drink. I'm sorry I didn't. I'll be right back. Hold on. Cool. Sorry for the delay. Let's go over. The state has responded, you guys. The state has responded. So already, like, good Lord, they are not playing. So the state responded 18 pages of correction. All right. So we're going to go over that right now. It's kind of crazy, but we're going to go over it. It is 18 pages. Let me put it up. Hold on. I think Candy sent me. She said, wow, that's fast. I know they are not playing. They are not playing. I actually don't think neither one of them are playing, to be honest with you. Okay, this is the real copy. Okay. So let me put this up for you guys to see. And we are going to read it. Okay. This is the corrected version. Now, I'm going to let y'all know there ain't a whole lot of changes from what they originally said, okay? They just kind of, to be honest with you, in a nutshell, if you like at work and really don't want to go through all of it with me, just know it's basically them saying, all right, we realized, yeah, it was video footage. Yeah. But after we looked at it, yeah, we still feel the same damn way. Keep her ass locked up, okay? That is basically what they're saying. But we're going to go through it, and then we're going to point out where they are strong at, where they are weak at, what's the difference in the original response versus this response, how they are trying to clean it up a little bit, and what they are doubling down on, okay? That's what we're going to go over. Thank y'all for being with me. If you want to share this live, please do so. I haven't even shared it to the group, so if somebody can share it to the group, if you guys can do that for me, please. And thumbs up this live so that it could go out a little further. And yeah, I think that's it. She said, hey, everyone. Yeah, we hear you. Okay, I got it. So let's go over what the state is saying. She said I shared it to both groups. Thank you, Kim C. So again, they had to do a correction, right? And why they have to do a correction? They had to do a correction because, they jumped the gun, tried to accuse the defense, which was their biggest argument. That was their biggest argument, by saying they don't even have the video footage that they claim they have, right? And their biggest defense is that video, and they don't even have the video. So basically, they was trying to say Ari's response was invalid because she didn't even include her biggest argument, and that is, I have video footage that your witness is not credible. And they're like, we don't see no video. And now they're saying, even though they see the video, they still saying that their witness number 3 is credible, and that Ari don't know what she's talking about. In so many words, they didn't say that exactly, but Ari don't know what she's talking about. The witness is credible because the witness lines up with all the other witnesses, is what the state is trying to say. Again, they're trying to say, well, the witnesses are saying the same thing, so she had to have seen what she says she saw, because they pretty much saying the same thing, all right? So again, let's go over this. I hope you guys have time. If not, just stick your earbud in. We're going to go over this. For those that come later, just make sure you hit replay in the comments for your girl. Thumbs up this video and share it if possible. All right. So again, I don't know if I'm going to go through all of this. We already know this is from the state of Illinois State's Department. Now, yesterday we said that it was Eileen Burks, but it's really... Hold on. It's really this guy that's signing this. I think his name was Joseph somebody. Hold on. Joseph Frazier. He is the special assistant state attorney. So this is his work, okay? He works in the office with Eileen. However, this is his work. He must be trying this case for the state. I think that's how it's working. So let's get into it, y'all. Let's get into it. I don't think it's going to take a very, very long time to go over this, but let's get it started, all right? Now, we're early at doing this. Normally, I don't come on live until later, but I wanted to go ahead and do it because we got another live later today. Let me see what time it is. It's 12:56, so it's almost 1 o'clock now. We have a later live today, so I will be coming back later today to discuss another topic, okay? Unless something else come down the pipe on this one, okay? All right, here we go. So it says the people of the state of Illinois under Eileen Burks, Cook County State Attorney's Office and Special State Attorney Joseph Frazier. He's presenting this and he goes over and say the defendant stands charged with 6 counts of first-degree murder. She was arrested on December the 3rd and the people filed a verified petition for pretrial detention. Okay, we already know that, right? We already know she went to court and she was denied release on December the 4th, all right? So then it goes on and say she filed for a motion to be released and it was doubled down on that the judge was keeping her detained, right? They sought detention and won, right? So now let's go into, okay, so they go and say, the people must show by clear and convincing evidence that the proof is evidence and the presumption is great, the defendant committed a qualifying offense, that she possesses a real and present threat to the safety of a person or persons in the community based on the specific articulable facts of the case, and that no conditions or combinations of conditions can mitigate the threat that she presents or prevent her willful flight from the prosecution, all right? So now here they put in a lot of case studies again, right? It says the people's burden is not proof beyond a reasonable doubt. People versus Williams. When parties proceed solely by proffer at a detention hearing, as occurred here, the standard of review is de novo. People versus Morgan. So he's basically saying that they solely proceeded by the proffer at the detention hearing, right? So because they proceeded by proffer, they're basically saying they don't have to prove this beyond a reasonable doubt. Okay, it doesn't have to be proved beyond a reasonable doubt. Just, a little speculative, but it doesn't have to be proven beyond a reasonable doubt. So then it goes on to say, defendant first argues that the people fail. So he's saying Ari. Ari first argues that the people, which is the state, failed to provide clear and convincing evidence that she committed the offense of first-degree murder because she acted in self-defense. This claim fails at the outset or onset? Anyway, because the people are not required under the PFA to disprove affirmative defense such as a claim of self-defense at pretrial. So he's saying, Ari and Holly is saying that the state failed to prove clear and convincing evidence that she committed this first-degree murder because she acted in self-defense. The state is saying this claim fails at the outset because the state is not required under the PFA to disprove affirmative defense such as self-defense, meaning that they don't have to disprove it at the detention hearing, right? Then it goes on and say, however, the court wrote in Illinois, the question whether defendant use of force was ultimately justified is a matter resolved at trial. So say, we ain't even trying to try this right now. That all is going to be at trial, all right? Whether or not she was self-defense or not, all right? So then it goes on and says, regardless of the self-defense claim has no merit. No matter what, it has no merit is what the state is saying. Regardless, the claim has no merit. So they had already said that before, and they just doubled down on it again, all right? Defendant and the victim had a history of disputes in July of 2025. The defendant secured a default stalking no contact order against the victim, which the court issued after the victim failed to appear for a court hearing. The victim appeared with defendant in a Zoom in June of that same year, 2025, but never met in person until the day of the shooting. The victim was never served with the court order. Defendant said the victim made threats against her via defendant's family members. However, the alleged threats occurred months earlier. So the state is saying here, like they said before, yes, there was threats. We saw there was threats. The judge thought that there was threats. However, it was way before this particular day in question, the incident day, September the 8th of 2025. So it says the people, which is the state, proffer evidence at the defendant's hearing that defendant and the victim both had a child by witness number 1, which is Carlos, who was in a relationship with the defendant in 2025. On the morning of September the 8th of 2025, Carlos drove his black Mercedes SUV to 20 West Cermak, which is near a school, and double parked the SUV to length in front of the defendant's black Chevy. Defendants moved her child from witness one's SUV to her Chevy. At about 9 a.m., the victim dropped her child off at school, then drove toward the location where the defendant and the witness one parked. She parked behind, okay, so right here they changed it. So at first they said she parked front of Holly. Now it's saying she parked behind witness number one, okay, and got out of the car. So here they changed it again. And the last one that they did, it said that Romika parked in front of Holly. So the state had to go and correct that. And now they are saying at about 9 o'clock a.m., the victim, which is Romika, dropped her child off at school, then drove toward the location where Holly and Carlos was parked. She parked behind to the east of Carlos's Mercedes and got out of the car. However, it says, contrary to defendant's assertion, meaning contrary to Holly's assertion, the victim's car was parked in front of defendant's car and never blocked in, meaning that defendant was free to leave at any time during the encounter. So here it looks like they're still saying that. Hold on. It says she parked behind and to the east of witnesses one Mercedes and got out of the car. And however, they're saying contrary to the defendant's assertion, the victim car was parked in front of Holly's car and never blocked in. Meaning that defendant was free to leave at any time during the encounter. So the state is still trying to claim, which I thought I thought they had to correct that. But the state did not correct that Romika was parked in front of Holly's car. They're still saying it. They're saying, yeah, it was behind Carlos's car, but it was still in front of Holly's car. That's crazy. But nevertheless, then they go on and say, at the scene, defendant and the victim stood in the streets arguing about the door of the victim's Kia. Witness one was standing between the two women with his arms extended. It appeared that defendant and the victim were arguing about Carlos. The victim was not acting aggressively. So saying Romika wasn't aggressively, right? But the defendant was aggressive, saying Holly was. Defendant was charging. Holly was charging Romika and trying to provoke her. And it said defendant advanced toward the victim, but Carlos held her back. Witness one, Carlos pushed Holly away from Romika, who was unarmed and stood stationary with her arms across against her chest. Then it says Romika walked to the driver's door of her Kia. Carlos struck her repeatedly by closing the Kia door on her. It says witness 3 called 911 to report that Carlos was striking Romika with the door. Then Romika got into her car. Holly approached the victim's car and threatened her, at which point the victim got out of her car. Carlos approached the victim from behind and put her in a chokehold with his right arm while striking her with the left. Still same thing, right? Defendant approached the victim and appeared to be trying to provoke her. Hold on. Oh, okay, so Holly approached Romika and appeared to be trying to provoke her. However, the women were only arguing and did not engage in a physical fight. So the state is still doubling down on what they wrote originally, right? That there was no physical fight. Also, that Holly was the aggressor. And also that Holly approached Romika and was trying to provoke her, okay? Then it says the witnesses who saw each of the offense are listed by number. None of the witnesses knew defendant, witness one, or each other. So then it goes on to say, the victim, who was still unarmed, had her hands flailing in the air and was trying to break free of Carlos's grasp. Then Holly threatened to pum Romika, and Carlos warned Romika that Holly had a gun. Then it says defendant kept, okay, so when it said this is what the witnesses said, right? This is witness number 4, witness number 3. So then it said witness number 3, defendant kept repeating that she was licensed to carry. Then it said witness 5 said the defendant went to her car and retrieved her handgun. So now the state is saying witness 5 is saying defendant went to her car and retrieved a handgun. I think they're making a mistake there because I don't know if witness 5 even said that she saw that. But now the state is saying witness 5 said the defendant went to her car and retrieved a handgun. Then witness 3, the victim freed herself from witness number 1 grasp and stepped away from the defendant. Witness 3, defendant pointed her handgun at the victim, walked toward her, and fired multiple times at her with a pause between the first shot and subsequent shots. Witness 3, witness 4 was walking away when he heard 1 gunshot, followed by 2 more. He looked back and saw the defendant holding a handgun. The victim was shot multiple times in the face and leg and collapsed. Witness 1, Carlos and the defendant, Holly, fist bump. They still doubling down on that. Witness 3 then called 911 a second time, this time to report the defendant shot the victim. Police arrived and transported Ramika to the hospital where she was pronounced DOA. Witness 3 identified defendant to the police as the shooter. Defendant admitted shooting the victim and was detained. She told police this was the first time she saw the victim in person and said she shot in self-defense. She had a valid FOID card and concealed carry. Police recovered a loaded 9mm handgun from her car. The courts granted the people petition for detaining Holly, finding that the people showed that their proof is evident and the presumption is great that a first-degree murder case occurred. Because disinterested witnesses said the victim was unarmed, stood with her arms crossed. Witness 1 put the victim in a chokehold. Defendant threatened to shoot the victim and said she had a gun. Defendant went to her car and retrieved the gun. The victim broke away from witness 1 chokehold and moved several steps away. And defendant shot the victim, pausing between first shot and subsequent shot. With regard to defendant's claim of self-defense, the court observed that the victim was never seen with a weapon and never struck the defendant. There was no evidence of injury to the defendant, and there it was just happenstance, meaning it just happened, just like it's a coincidence, right? No stalking. They're saying that she wasn't stalking or anything. She just pulled up. That the victim and the defendant met that morning, just all by accidental. They just met, like, oh, I see you, whatever. Like, it was just accident is what they're trying to say. It's trying to say she wasn't stalking, that you just ran up on them, right? Yeah, okay. The court found that the peoples demonstrated that the defendant presented a safety threat because she committed the offense in public at a busy intersection near a school, undeterred by the presence of children, witnesses, and her own child. The court said defendant is absolutely a threat to the community, to these witnesses. The court condemned the kill shots and the celebration that took place after the shooting, the fist bump they're trying to say happened, and said the defendant has proven that she will exert deadly violence over verbal arguments. With regards to the possible imposition of limiting conditions of release, the court concluded that neither electronic monitoring nor home confinement will deter Holly from harming the witnesses or anyone she encounters that she perceived as a threat based on their words, okay? Said that the court observed that Holly had received training in order to gain her concealed carry license, but she violated the rule that she was taught, demonstrating that she would not comply with conditions of release, okay? So basically they saying because she is a licensed carrier, trained licensed carrier, that she disregarded her training, and it says, yeah, that means that she would not comply with the conditions of release. Then it goes on to say the court's ruling should be upheld. So the state here is saying, come on, appellate court. Appellate court, listen to the circuit court. That judge was correct. So right here, the court's ruling should be upheld. A person who commits first-degree murder, if in causing a death, she intended to kill or cause great bodily harm to the victim, knowing the conduct will result in death, or knowing that the conduct creates a strong probability of death or great bodily harm. Here, Holly's intent was made clear by the facts that she shot an unarmed victim point blank, pausing after the first shot to fire 2 more shots. The court said defendant made sure that the shots were fatal. So trying to say the reason why she shot 3 times because she wanted to make sure that it was a dunner. Okay, that's what the state is saying. So it says here, defendant who shot unarmed victim who did not threaten him was guilty of first degree. Okay, they tried to use People versus Phelps, right? Saying that the defendant who shot unarmed victim who did not threaten him was guilty of first degree. Even if the people were statutorily obliged to disprove a claim of self-defense, it would fail because the evidence does not support it. Defendant primary challenges is, now see, they changed it. It was defendant primary challenge was the video, the evidence video. Now they're saying defendant's primary challenge is the credibility of witness 3, who saw defendant and victim arguing, saw Carlos striking the victim by closing the door on her, saw defendant approach the victim and threaten her after the victim had returned to her car, heard defendant threaten to shoot the victim, saw the victim retrieve a handgun from her car, saw the victim escape from Carlos's grips and step away, saw defendant walk toward the victim and shoot her, and call 911 twice to report the crime as it was taking place. Defendant argues that witness 3 could not have heard what the parties to the offense were saying because she was wearing headphones. But the state says, however, witness 3 was still wearing those same headphones when she spoke with the police after the shooting, showing that she could hear through the headphones, and she told the police she heard everything, okay? Now, other witnesses heard the same thing. Let me say something here. I think the state is making a big mistake right here, saying that, however, witness 3 was still wearing headphones when she spoke to the police after the shooting, showing that she could hear through the headphones, and she told the police she heard everything. First of all, you're right up there on the cops. And second of all, it's on video camera, on body camera, that she actually had to take the headphones off in order to hear the cops that she was speaking to right in front of him. She literally had to take and that's what Ari said, not me. Defense attorney Ari said that she actually removed her headphones while standing right in front of the officer, and it's all caught on body cam footage. So again, I'm shocked that the state would even add this in here, that this is evidence that witness number 3 heard and seen everything, because it says, however, witness 3 was still wearing those headphones when she spoke to the police after the shooting. Like, come on, really? All right, I found that to be really crazy. And then it says, other witnesses heard the same thing. So when it says other witnesses heard the same thing that witness 3 did, okay? Defendants also argued that witness 3, who was riding a bus when she first saw the defendant, could not have seen the shooting from the vantage point once she got off the bus. Defendant is attacking the reliability of the witnesses, which is a matter for trial. So right here it's saying, yeah, I understand what she's saying. I see that witness 3 was 350 yards away. Feet, not yards. Ooh, damn, that's a long way. 350 feet away. But the state is saying that doesn't matter at detention. It only matters the credibility of a witness at trial. Okay, again, defendant also argues that witness 3, who was riding a bus when she first saw defendant, could not have seen a shooting from the vantage point once she got off the bus. Defendant is attacking the reliability of the witness, right? And the state is pushing back, saying, I know she's a piece of shit. However, you got to bring that up in trial. Not right now, is what the state's saying. That's a matter for trial. See People versus Mosley, all right? Furthermore, the trial court watched the videotapes. Now, this is going to be important. Furthermore, they watched the videotapes and they disagree with defendant's arguments that witness 3 could not have seen the crime scene after getting off the bus. So right here, they are disagreeing. They saying, nah, she could have saw it. She could have saw it. Defendant arguments also fail because witness 3 called 911 twice to contemporaneously report what she was seeing. And witness 3's account is supported by and witness 3's account is supported by and does not contradict accounts given by other witnesses. So basically the state is saying, well, how can witness 3 not see what she says she saw and other witnesses is saying similar things that she said, okay? So then it goes on to say, defendant further bases her self-defense arguments on her proffered evidence that witness 1 would testify that the victim ran up on the defendant and swung on her. The defendant told the victims to leave her alone. No other witness saw this take place. Moreover, the trial court characterized witness 1. So here they're saying, wait a minute, appellate. The trial court judge said that Carlos was the only person who was not an independent witness because he has motive, interest, and biased to testify in a certain way. The trial court said it gave greater weight to the testimonies of witness 2 through 5. So right here, the state is trying to say the circuit judge said he actually believes witnesses 2 through 5 way more than he would ever believe witness number 1. Okay? Not saying that witness number 1 is not telling the truth, but just saying that he has more motive, interest, and bias to testify in a certain way because he's not independent of Holly, but the other witnesses are independent, meaning they don't know Holly. So they don't have a dog in the fight. But Carlos, right here, they're trying to say has a dog in the fight. And he's saying, well, the circuit judge said, well, the circuit judge said, well, the circuit judge said, okay? So then finally, defendant argues that an unknown caller to 911 suggests that the victim was the aggressor in the scenario. The people disagrees. They said, nah, we don't agree with that, pointing out that it is unclear as to who she's talking about at various points about who's the aggressor because the phone call itself is unclear. Moreover, as stated, none of the witnesses except witness 1, which is Carlos, suggest that the victim act aggressively toward the defendant. There is accordingly no merit to defendant's claim of self-defense, and the trial court properly found that there was clear and convincing evidence of detainable offense. Again, they're going back to the trial court. They saying there's no merit that this is self-defense. No. And the trial judge said that this was clear and convincing evidence for a detainable offense. So they keep going back saying, well, the judge said it was. The judge said it was. Come on, what you gonna do? You gonna override the judge? Come on, from judge to judge. Come on, y'all, aren't y'all like buddies or whatever? Or don't y'all go eat coffee and donuts together? A judge already said that she should be locked up, so you as a judge should say the same thing. It's basically what the state is saying. Then it goes on and say, all right, it says, defendant who engaged in physical altercation with unarmed victim and then shoots her did not act in self-defense. People versus Johnson. So again, they still trying to double down on the victim, defendant who engaged in physical altercation with an unarmed victim and then shoot them. So if you fight with someone without a weapon and shoot them, then that is not an act of self-defense, is what they're trying to say. Then it says, court rejected claims of self-defense based on the defendant's history of conflict with victim, where defendant shot unarmed victim, then chased him down and shot him. Okay, so they just quoting People versus Johnson right here. And we did that yesterday. So next they goes on to say, next defendant contends that the people failed to show clear and convincing evidence that she possessed a safety threat. To the contrary, the people garnered specific articulable facts demonstrating that defendant possessed a safety threat to person or persons in the community, including anyone who confronts her. Her claim that she shot the victim in self-defense is nullified by the combined accounts of 4 total disinterest witnesses. So right here, the state is saying 4 people that don't know each other basically is saying Holly was the aggressor, Holly provoked, Holly approached, she was unarmed, it was no fight, therefore she is a threat. Okay, that's what the state is trying to say. All right, so then it goes on and say her claim that she shot the victim in self-defense is nullified by the combined accounts of 4 total disinterest witnesses, none of whom saw defendant threatened by an unarmed victim. So they're saying they did not see Romika threaten Holly. All right. So defendant did not just shoot the victim 1 time, but 3 times. Clearly a matter of intent and choice. So by them saying, because it was more than 1 shot, that means it was intentional and she had a choice. All right. So moreover, the shooting took place in broad daylight. So here they coming up again. Wait a minute, judge. It was daylight outside. Okay. At the start of school and work day. Okay. And then they said where there were adults and children all about, as evidenced by the number of witnesses who saw the shooting. The trial court properly concluded this defendant has proven that she will exert deadly force, deadly violence over verbal arguments. Anyone who is capable of that has the ability and the willingness to act on it is absolutely a threat to the community. So again, what did they do? They pushed it back to the state. The states properly concluded. The state said that if she could do this in broad daylight, okay, over an argument, not a fight, over an argument, is very much capable and willing to do this any other time, which means that she is absolutely a threat. That's what they're trying to say. Now, number 19, the statutory factors supporting the trial court denial of pretrial release, including the defendant committed a crime of violence. She possessed a threat to the community at large and to the witnesses in this case, all of whom defendant named in a pleading, and she was in possession of a gun. In addition, the nature and circumstance of defendant offense is that she shot the unarmed victim multiple times with adults and children in the vicinity, and the evidence of her guilt is overwhelming. That's what the state is saying. The foregoing stationary factory firmly supports the trial court's detention ruling. The case is comparable to People versus Batty, where during an argument that took place outside of an apartment complex, the defendant displayed his gun and threatened to the victim. The defendant had prior issues with the victim. A witness told the defendant to calm down, but the defendant shot the victim. A BB gun was found underneath the victim after he was shot, and the defendant claimed that the victim pointed a gun at him first, but witnesses says, the victim never had that gun in his hand, and he did not make any threats or pointed a gun at anyone. So even though the defendant had no criminal record and lived with his parents, the court found that he posed a danger to the victim and the community because he possessed and had access to a firearm. The weapon was a modified automatic firearm. The defendant admitted shooting the victim, and the defendant opened fire in a public area at an apartment complex. So right here with People versus Batty, the state is pushing back, trying to say that because they found Batty was a threat to the community and therefore they kept him detained, that they should do Holly the same, okay? Even though right here they're trying to say, yeah, Batty had an issue with the guy that he shot. They had ongoing issues and this, that, and the other. However, none of the witnesses saw the victim of Batty threaten him, so he is to stay detained, okay? So, two, in this case, even though defendant has a limited criminal record, she admitted shooting the unarmed victim who was simply arguing with her and never physically threatened her. So again, the state is saying it wasn't a fight. They was just arguing. She wasn't threatening her, which means trying to say Holly was wrong. So indeed, this case is even more egregious than Batty. It's saying this is worse than Batty case. Saying Holly case is worse than Batty case because here the victim was backing away from the defendant when she was shot. So right here saying Romika was actually backing away when she was shot versus in this situation that they were like right up on each other, whatever, right? So again, the court saying, come on, appellate court, this is even worse than the Batty case because Romika was actually like, no, I'm scared. Let me just go. Let me go. Please, don't do it, all right? Not really. I'm just threw that in there, but nevertheless. So the state is saying Romika was literally backing away from Holly when she was shot. But that's not what the damn autopsy report says, the part that we saw, right? So nevertheless, it says the court rejected claims of self-defense and found the defendant posed safety threats where he shot an unarmed man across public streets after two exchanged words. A defendant's commission of a violent crime can outweigh a defendant's limited criminal record. So then it goes on, People versus Manzana, all right? So defendant who stabbed victim was safety threats despite limited criminal record. People versus Chapman, defendant charged with first-degree murder and home invasion posed safety threat despite no criminal record. So right here saying they didn't have no criminal record, but they was charged with first degree because of this, that, and the third, all right? So then it goes on. Finally, defendant argues that she only shot after the victim went to her car but came back to attack. To the contrary, the evidence shows that the victim got in her car after witness one repeatedly struck her with her own car door, then got out of the car again only after Holly approached and threatened her. So the state is trying to say Romika wouldn't have never got out of the car had Holly never came to her car and start threatening her. That's the only reason why she got out. and saying the only reason why she got in the car in the first place is because Carlos was repeatedly striking her with the car door. So then it says, if defendant truly felt threatened, meaning if Holly truly felt threatened, she could have used the phone to call 911 or could have simply driven away. However, she chose to not do that. The trial court therefore properly conclude that the defendant posed a safety threat. Next, the defendant argues that the people failed to show by clear and convincing evidence that there are no conditions that can mitigate her real and present safety threat. In determining whether conditions or pretrial release can reasonably ensure the community's safety and likelihood the defendant will comply, court considers substantial the same factors considered in determining whether a defendant posed a real and present threat under See People versus Saucedo, another case study. But let's go back up for a minute. It says, it noted here that defendant has a 2014 misdemeanor conviction for retail theft and speeding conviction. So the reason why they did that, and pretrial services scored her 2 for new criminal activities and 2 failure to appears. What? I've never heard that she had 2 failure to appears. Did they just throw that shit in there? Pretrial services scored her 2 for new criminal activity, and 2 failure to appears. Let me see what this is saying. I didn't know Holly had 2 failures to appear. Give me a second, you guys. All right, let me let y'all hear what they're saying. It's not what I thought, y'all, because I was like, I never knew Holly had a failure to appear. So I'm glad I got clarification because, child, give me a second.
Good question. And no, that line does not mean she actually failed to appear before. What it really means, when it says, open quote, scored her 2 for failure to appear, close quote, that is a risk assessment score, not a history statement. 2 different things. 1, actual history, what she's done before. That would say something like, defendant previously failed to appear. That would mean she actually missed court. 2, risk score prediction. This is what you have here. It's saying, open quote, based on her background, we estimate a low to moderate chance she could miss court, close quote. So the answer is no. They are not saying she failed to appear before. They are saying they're giving her a low-level risk score that she might.
Okay. So it's not, so I read it wrong. It's not, it says pre-trial services scored her 2, like a number 2, for new criminal activity, meaning number 2 for new, they're saying it is a number 2 for her to commit a new criminal activity, and then a 2 for failure to appear. All right. So that's what that means. All right. I'm sorry. Let's continue. Because I was like, what the hell? All right. So where are we? So then they threw up these other case studies. So anyway, let's go down to here. The statutory factor discussed supra militate against any conclusion that any combination of conditions can mitigate defendant's safety. So basically they saying anything, electronic monitoring, home confinement, stay away orders. Basically they trying to say it would not mitigate her real and present threat to the community, meaning that, yeah, none of that's going to work. That's what the state is trying to say here, all right? So let's go down. Then it says, defendant argues, however, that the nature and circumstances of offense is just one factor a court should consider and determine whether conditions of release apply. Then it gives decision in People versus Graham is on point. In Graham, defendant and the victim had a history of bad blood. While in the line at the restaurant, the victim backhanded the defendant, who left and returned a few seconds later with a handgun. The victim ran into a parking lot where the defendant pursued and shot him. The victim fell to the ground. The defendant walked up and shot him again at least once, then fled. The defendant, who had a concealed carry license, argued that he should be released with conditions because he had disabilities, were employed, and had no adult criminal history or history of violating the court order. The reviewing court disagreed, writing that this is such a case where defendant charge conduct reflects such a department from the basis expectation of civil society that it casts doubt on the ability to comply with the trial court order or societal norms regarding the safety of others despite the lack of criminal history. So right here is saying, yeah, this dude didn't have no criminal history either, but the court said he needed to stay detained, and basically so does Holly. All right. So right here, the Graham court stressed that the part of the bare elements of the charge offense were the fact the defendant shot in a crowded area, chased the fleeing victim, and shot him where he was already on the ground. So this is where Ari was saying, this ain't even the same. Like, this ain't my client. And I think she came back and said, this dude was on probation. This dude had this, that, and the third. Like, that ain't even Holly. All right. So nevertheless, so then another case study, they're trying to prove that right here, the state or the court, basically stuck them to detention. So they used all these case studies. So we can bypass that. I think that the rest of it is just case studies showing that they kept these people in, so they should keep Holly in. All right. This is all about the conditional release. And then right here it says, furthermore, the record shows that the court did not consider alternative to electronic monitoring. The court recognized that the most powerful tool available to mitigate the defendant's dangerousness was the electronic monitoring. And if the court found that the most powerful tool available was insufficient to mitigate Holly's dangerousness, then it follows that less powerful tools, i.e. alternatives to electronic monitoring, would be insufficient. So they basically saying if an electronic monitor ain't gonna work, then we ain't gonna offer nothing else, because everything else is just useless. Defendant argument should therefore be rejected because the circuit court knows the law, including conditions of release and less restrictive alternative to detention. So right here, they're telling the appellate court, reject it again or whatever, reject it because the circuit court knows the law, including the conditions of release. Basically, like, don't override the circuit court. They know the law. They know what's going on, all right? So then it concludes here and say, for that reason, the trial court grants of the people's petition for detention hearing should be upheld. So right here, they are asking the appellate court to please uphold the detention hearing that was put into place at the circuit court, all right? So that's what the state is doing. So now we are going to hear basically, what did they correct? Besides just saying, all right, we see the videos. What did they correct? Well, I'm here to tell you, not much. Not much, okay? Not much. All right, so let's go to what they correct versus, hold on. Give me a second. So I put both of them in there, right? The first one versus this one, the corrected one versus the original one. And I asked basically for them to explain to me basically what changed, what was the changes, and what are they standing firm on. And so here we go. Let's go. Let's go. Turn your volumes up, baby. Here we go.
Now, this right here is the missing piece that explains everything, because once we factor in the motion to file a corrected response, we're no longer guessing. We actually know why the state changed its argument. The real reason the state changed their response, straight from their own filing. The state admitted that they originally argued the defense didn't include the video. But here's the problem. The defense did include the video. The state just didn't realize it was already there. Had a smoking gun. The state literally said they were unaware that the defendant had supplemented the record with the videos and later learned that the videos were available. That right there is key. So what did they do next? They had to walk it back. They admitted they corrected their response to remove any arguments claiming the defense failed to include the video. So what's actually new here? First, the state lost their strongest technical argument. Originally, they were saying The defense didn't include the video, so their argument fails. Now, that argument is gone. Not because they wanted it gone, but because it was wrong. Second, the video is now officially part of the case. The appellate court ordered it. The defense submitted it. And now the state has seen it. That's huge. Third, the entire fight has shifted. Before, this was about procedure, paperwork, technicalities. Now, this is about the actual evidence. The state is now arguing, even with the video, she's still guilty. That is a completely different battle. Fourth, there was a credibility hit. Anytime the state makes an argument and then has to withdraw it, that weakens their position. So now they're adjusting, leaning harder on witnesses, and pushing their narrative even more. Fifth, this explains why the defense reply hit so hard, because the defense likely pointed out the state argued something that wasn't true. And in appellate court, that matters. Biggest takeaway, the state had to rewrite their argument because they were wrong about the evidence. And now the appellate court is looking at the actual video, what this means for the case. For the state, they lost a procedural shortcut, and now they have to win on the facts. For the defense, this is a big win. Their evidence is now officially in the record, being considered and forcing the state to adjust their entire strategy. Shash stream ready line. Y'all, the state literally had to correct their response because they didn't even realize the video was already in the record. They tried to argue it wasn't there and had to walk that all the way back. Now the court is looking at the actual evidence, and that changes everything.
All right, hold on. That's that part. Now let me let you guys hear what they are saying now as for the witnesses. Hold on. Because now they, instead of the video, because before the video was their biggest strength, right? She don't have the video. She didn't include the video. She didn't include the video. So now that the video is included, they shifting the arguments from the video to the witnesses, okay? They basically saying, but the witnesses all are agreeing. Hold on. All right, hold on. So now it's no longer she didn't have no videos. Now it's despite the videos, the witnesses. It's my witnesses. So which means they are relying heavily now back on the witnesses. At first it's there's no video. And now we're relying on witnesses. It's the witnesses. Here we go, you guys. Listen up.
Here's your smooth, clean, stream-ready read. No emojis, polished, and easy to deliver. What the state actually says about the video. 1. What they do not say. The state never says. The video shows a fight. The video shows the victim as the aggressor. The video supports self-defense. They completely avoid confirming any of the defense's claims about the video. 2. They double down on the trial court's interpretation. Instead, the state leans on what the trial court already decided. They point out that the trial court reviewed the video and rejected the defense's argument that witness 3 could not see the scene. In plain terms, the video has already been reviewed. The judge did not agree with the defense's interpretation. Number 3, they shift focus away from the video. Rather than explaining what the video shows, the state focuses on the credibility of witness 3, other witnesses supporting her account, the claim that the victim was unarmed, the sequence of events, including the defendant retrieving a gun and firing. This shift is intentional. Number 4, the video is treated as support, not the centerpiece. The state is not arguing that the video proves their case. Instead, they rely on witness testimony, the overall sequence of events. This usually suggests the video is not overwhelmingly in their favor. Number 5, what they indirectly admit. From their motion, they initially filed their response without fully accounting for the video. They later reviewed it. They removed their earlier argument about the defense not including it. However, even after reviewing it, they still do not claim that the video shows no fight, that the video disproves self-defense. What this really means, if the video clearly supported the state, you would expect strong language like, the video conclusively shows. The video confirms the victim was not aggressive. That language is not there. If the video clearly supported the defense, you would expect the state to aggressively attack it. Instead, they avoid engaging with it directly. The likely interpretation. The video is likely, ambiguous, incomplete, or not clearly capturing the key moment. Because of that, the state's strategy appears to be, do not fight over the video. Win through witnesses. Stream ready line. You can say, now here's what's interesting. The state never says the video shows what the defense claims, but they also never say the video proves them right either. Instead, they pivot to witnesses. That usually tells you the video isn't a slam dunk for either side. Final breakdown. The defense is building its argument around the video, the 911 call, an aggressor narrative. The state is building its argument around witness credibility, the sequence of events, the defendant's actions. This is shaping up to be a classic clash between visual evidence and human testimony.
Yep. So this is where we at. This is evidence versus witness statements, testimonies. Evidence versus testimonies. I love it though. Evidence for the defense versus testimony for the state. So basically, I like the way my little boyfriend, I call AI my little boyfriend, y'all. I like the way it pointed out that if the videos were useless, meaning that they were no good for the defense, then I believe, she said, if the state felt like the videos were useless or whatever, I believe that they would have pointed it out, but they kind of avoided what was on the videos. Okay, they kind of avoided it and trying to danced around it and said some crap like, well, despite the distance, she was still wearing her headphones when she was standing right in front of the police officer and he heard her. It was okay that he heard her. So yeah, 350 feet away, she just got some good youthful ears and some good youthful eyes, you know? So basically they don't want it to look like the video was any good, all right? Of any use for them, all right? So, and I think there's one more thing I want you guys to hear. Dispatch stated the 2 911 callers said that they were fighting, right? So I asked them about the 911 call here, and the state avoid the 911 call altogether, basically saying it still wasn't no fight, still wasn't fight. They're not acknowledging that the dispatcher actually in 2 different 911 calls actually stated that they were fighting. All right, so here we go. Let's listen to this.
Here's a clean, smooth, professional read. Core correction. What the state is actually saying. The state's position is clear. There was an argument, not a mutual physical fight. They are very intentional about making that distinction. State's actual position from the record. According to the corrected response, the women were arguing in the street, not engaged in a physical fight. The state specifically maintains that the victim was unarmed, was not aggressive, had her arms crossed at times, was attempting to break free, not attack. Their key claim is that women were only arguing and did not engage in a physical fight. Defense position, complete opposite. The defense argues that there was, in fact, a fight. They rely on a 911 caller stating 2 women hitting each other, witness 1 claiming the victim ran up and swung, physical indicators such as disheveled hair. The real issue. This case hinges on one central question. Was there a physical fight or not? State's version, no fight, only an argument, and the defendant escalated to deadly force. Defense's version, a fight occurred, the defendant was attacked, and the shooting was a reaction to violence. Why this distinction matters. Legally, this distinction is critical. If there was no fight, self-defense becomes significantly weaker and may appear as an overreaction. If there was a fight, self-defense becomes more plausible and raises doubt about intent. How the state handles the 911 call. The state approaches the 911 call strategically. They do not fully rely on it. Instead, they argue that the call is unclear about who the aggressor was. They then emphasize multiple witnesses who say the victim was not aggressive. No one observed the victim strike the defendant. The state's strategy. The state is deliberately downplaying the term fight and reframing the situation as an argument combined with a chaotic moment rather than mutual combat. Defense strategy. The defense takes the opposite approach. They elevate the situation into a physical altercation, an attack, imminent danger. Consistency with the record state. Consistent across filings, repeatedly asserts there was no physical fight, relies on multiple witnesses. Defense relies on the 911 call wording, depends heavily on one key witness, draws inferences from physical condition. Objective evaluation. State strengths, multiple witnesses reporting no fight, victim described as unarmed and non-aggressive, a clear narrative of escalation by the defendant. Defense's strengths. The 911 call does reference hitting, raises doubt about what actually occurred, challenges the credibility of state witnesses. Defense's weakness. Lacks strong independent witnesses confirming a fight, relies largely on interpretation and limited testimony. Real talk for your live. The state is not saying there was a fight. They are saying this was an argument that the defendant escalated into deadly force. The defense is trying to transform that argument into a physical attack to support a claim of self-defense. Bottom line. The entire case turns on this issue. If the court believes there was no fight, the state's position is significantly stronger. If the court believes there was a fight, the defense gains meaningful ground. Final take. You were correct. The state is not arguing that there was a fight. They are not conceding mutual combat at all. Instead, they are minimizing the situation to an argument and framing the shooting as an overreaction.
Okay, so right here we hear this is going to boil down to credibility, but also, was there a fight? Did she really get attacked? Did Romika really rush her aggressively and swing on her? So it's going to boil down to those things. If the courts believe that there was a fight, then the defense is in a stronger position. If the courts do not believe that there was a fight, then the state is in a stronger position, okay? So right now, though, with the 911 calls, and I'm going to let you hear it.
Unison 1, we're getting 2 calls on the board. First, it came in as a battery in progress, Sermon State.
Okay.
4 male and 2 females fighting outside on the street, white car and black car on scene. Second ticket coming on the board right now says a person with a gun at 2200 South State. You got a female black, light complexion, green tracksuit, has a gun, fighting with another female black, dark complexion, occupant of a white car. No further.
All right, so both calls, did y'all hear that? Did y'all hear both calls? Both tickets, she said they were fighting. Okay, I actually wrote it word from word. Let me go back. I worded word from word what the dispatcher actually said word from word. Hold on, I did that last night. Let's go back to that.
We have 2 calls on the board. The first call came in as a battery in progress at Cermak and State. It reports 1 male and 2 females fighting outside in the street, involving a white car and a black car on the scene. A second call is now coming in reporting a person with a gun at 2200 South State. The description is a black female with a light complexion, wearing a green tracksuit, who is armed and fighting with another black female with a darker complexion, identified as an occupant of a white car.
Okay, so y'all heard fighting, right? On both of them, you should have heard fighting. Hold on. Can you put this in? Okay, well, you know what? I'm not going to put this in a smooth one. So I'm going to let you hear what this means as far as who basically does this goes toward the defendant or the state, that both calls, the 911 dispatcher mentioned fighting on both calls. Now, let me just say this. Somebody said, Amora, in Chicago, they consider fighting an argument. I don't know about that. You know what I'm saying? The court will have to deal with whether they think it was a physical fight or whether it was an argument. Because in the courts, the state is saying it wasn't a fight, it was just an argument. However, the dispatcher used fighting in both of the calls. All right, here we go.
Short answer. This helps the defense more, but it's not a knockout. It creates a conflict the defense can use while the state will try to minimize it. Let's break it down clean so you can explain it on your live. Why this helps the defense. Both calls independently describe a physical fight happening. Battery in progress. Male and two females fighting. Female with a gun fighting with another female. That's huge because, one, it supports the defense's core theory. The defense is saying, open quote, there was a physical altercation, close quote. These calls back up that a fight was happening in real time, show multiple people perceived it as a fight, not just an argument. Two, it introduces reasonable doubt. Now the jury or appellate court is stuck with, state there was no fight. 911 callers, there is a fight happening. That contradiction alone helps the defense because the court must resolve conflicting accounts, and conflict equals doubt. Three, it strengthens self-defense framing. If there's a fight, the situation becomes dynamic and chaotic, not a calm, one-sided execution. That opens the door to fear, escalation, split-second decisions. All of that leans towards self-defense arguments. How the state will try to spin this, the state is not just going to accept this. Here's what they'll argue. One, 911 callers can be mistaken. They'll say calls are chaotic. Callers describe what they think they see, not legally reliable proof of what actually happened. Two, words like fighting are loosely used. They'll argue fighting, actual physical combat, could mean yelling, arguing, or tension. They'll try to downgrade it to people thought it was a fight. Three, the gun changes everything. The second call says a person with a gun. The state will pivot to, once a gun is introduced, this is no longer mutual. It's escalation by the defendant. The real takeaway, this is your PowerPoint. This doesn't automatically prove the defense is right, but it directly contradicts the state's clean narrative of no fight, just an argument. And that's where the defense wins ground. How you can say it on your live. Now hold on, because both 911 calls are saying the same thing. There was a fight happening in real time. So if the state is telling us there was no physical fight, but the people calling it in are saying there is one, now we've got a problem, because that's not consistency. That's contradiction. And contradiction creates reasonable doubt.
Contradiction creates reasonable doubt. Contradiction creates reasonable doubt. We've been saying from the beginning that there's a lot of reasonable doubt in this story, okay? You got the dispatcher with two 911 callers and fight is mentioned. But then you have four witnesses that say they did not see a fight. But those four witnesses that said they didn't see a fight, one was driving, a DoorDash driver. Another one was driving and then pulled into the parking lot and went into her workplace and looked out the window from the foyer of her business or whatever. Then you got another one that was riding on a CTA bus that got off the bus and was moving in the opposite direction of the crime scene. And then you got another one that basically say that he just heard the shots, turned around, and saw Holly was holding the gun, okay? So with that being said, you got two unidentified witnesses that called in to 911, and they both reported what? That there was a fight. So whether it was a fight or not, the fact that the 911 caller saying it creates what? Reasonable doubt. And the state would have to eliminate reasonable doubt. You know, they are the ones that will have to, make this thing seems more direct than what it seems. Okay, here we go.
The state does not have to prove that there was no fight at all. That's not actually their legal burden. What they have to prove is much more specific and more strategic. They must show that the defendant's use of force was not justified. So even if some level of confrontation or chaos existed, the state can still win if they convince the court that the defendant was not facing an imminent threat of great bodily harm, or the defendant was the initial aggressor, or the level of force used, introducing a gun and firing, was not reasonable under the circumstances. That's where their focus is going to be. Instead of spending all their energy trying to prove there was absolutely no fight, the state will likely pivot and argue something like this. Yes, there may have been an argument, or even some level of physical interaction, but it did not rise to the level that justifies deadly force. They'll lean on points like the victim was unarmed, Witnesses described the victim as not being aggressive. The defendant had the opportunity to disengage. The defendant escalated the situation by introducing a firearm. So the real battleground isn't simply fight versus no fight. It's this: even if there was a fight, was it serious enough to justify pulling a gun and firing? That's the question that actually decides the case. And that's why those 911 calls matter. But they don't automatically win it for the defense. They help create doubt, but the defense still has to connect that chaos to a reasonable fear of serious harm in that exact moment.
Okay. So we just heard that the fight alone, the state does not have to prove that it was the fight alone, right? Because they have other issues that they have to deal with, right? Whether it was justifiable use of force, right? Even at the moment, even if it was a fight. Now let's listen to what the defense has to do.
The defense doesn't win this case by simply proving there was a fight. They win by attacking the state's certainty and building reasonable doubt around justification. Here's the smooth, real breakdown you can use. The defense starts to gain ground anywhere the state's story looks too clean, too controlled, or contradicted by real-time evidence. First, they win on conflicting narratives. The state is presenting a very polished version that this was just an argument, the victim wasn't aggressive, and the defendant escalated. But the defense can point to multiple pieces of evidence, like the 911 calls, showing people believed a fight was actively happening. That creates a problem for the state, because now their version is no longer the only version. Second, the defense wins on chaos and uncertainty in the moment. Self-defense doesn't require things to be calm or perfectly clear. It actually thrives in confusion. If the defense can show movement, confrontation, tension escalating quickly, then it becomes much harder for the state to argue that the defendant had time to calmly assess and choose a safer option. The more chaotic the scene feels, the more reasonable fear becomes. Third, they win if they can undermine witness credibility. If even one key witness is too far away, inconsistent, or contradicted by video or other evidence, then the state's narrative starts to weaken, because if the witnesses aren't solid, then the no-fight story isn't solid either. Fourth, and this is the biggest one, the defense wins by anchoring everything to reasonable fear. They don't have to prove the victim was actually going to cause serious harm. They only need to show that, in that moment, a reasonable person could have believed they were in danger. That's a much lower bar, and a powerful one. So the real winning lane for the defense looks like this. Not, there was definitely a fight, but there is enough evidence of confrontation, confusion, and contradiction that you cannot confidently say the defendant's fear was unreasonable. And that's the shift, because once the case moves from certainty to doubt, the defense is exactly where they need to be.
Okay. All right. Y'all heard it. Y'all heard it. So they don't have to say that there was definitely a fight. They don't have to prove, or they don't have to. So let me belay my last, because I said it was going to come down to a fight or no fight. However, no, the defense doesn't necessarily have to prove that it was definitely a fight. The state doesn't have to prove that it was not a fight. But if the defense, if they can show enough evidence of confrontation, confusion, and contradictions, that you cannot confidently say that the defense fear was unreasonable. Okay, meaning that, and to me, I feel like they have that. It is there was confrontation, confusion, and there are contradictions. The state saying it was just an argument. The 911 call says it was a fight. Each witnesses was on their own. They have their own negatives that they bring to the case. Whether it's their vantage points was off, one driving, another one driving, walking into the workplace, another one on a bus, headphones on, and so forth and so on, hiding behind a building, so forth and so on. So I think Ari has enough, right, to create reasonable doubt. But now this is for the trial. We ain't there yet. We still trying to get Holly out of jail on pre-trial detention. However, just going a little further, it does seem that there is reasonable doubt there. She just have to sell it to the court. Okay. So let me read some of y'all comments. She said, with all due respect, Battle Buddy, if both 911 callers reported a physical assault fight, it never specified what gender that Carlos or Holly was actually engaging in a physical altercation. Let's listen to it again, because I actually think they said fighting, two females fighting is what they said. I don't think they said, let's listen to it again. I think it said two females fighting. Hold on. Let's go back to the transcript.
Here's a smooth, polished version with a natural flow and clear pacing. We have 2 calls on the board. The first call came in as a battery in progress at Cermak and State. It reports 1 male and 2 females fighting outside in the street, involving a white car and a black car on the scene. A second call is now coming in reporting a person with a gun at 2200 South State. The description is a black female with a light complexion, wearing a green tracksuit, who is armed and fighting with another black female with a darker complexion, identified as an occupant of a white car. If you want, I can also...
All right, so this first caller just says it's 1 male and 2 females fighting outside in the street. But the next one says it's a black female with a light complexion, wearing a green tracksuit, who is armed and fighting with another black female with a darker complexion. So it does say that the 2 females were fighting. It sounds like a man and a woman against another woman. That's the first call, but the second call does not say that. Let's listen to it one more time.
Here's a smooth, polished version with a natural flow and clear pacing. We have 2 calls on the board. The first call came in as a battery in progress at Cermak and State. It reports 1 male and 2 females fighting outside in the street, involving a white car and a black car on the scene. A second call is now coming in reporting a person with a gun at 2200 South State. The description is a black female with a light complexion, wearing a green tracksuit, who is armed and fighting with another black female with a darker complexion, identified as an occupant of a white car.
Okay, so right there, the second call says 2 females fighting. It sounds like, okay, I read that already. She said Q went to the area where that girl said she heard the fight by the bus. No way she heard anything, how noisy it sound while he was live. No, I don't think she heard that. I don't think she heard that. I had another person that go, and she sent me a video. I can't even remember her. I can't remember her name, but she sent me a video, and it was noisy. It was noisy, but she didn't go at the same time of the day. But it was still noisy. It's noisy out there, very, very much noisy. So I don't think she heard that. You know, she said it feels like Holly had her shit on her, and a motherfucker still tried her, and things went left. She said they did exactly this. They said this call was unclear. She said he said fighting and is armed, so she had to have her weapon on her. That's what it sounded like to me. Yeah, a second call is now coming in and reporting a person with a gun at 2200 South State. The description is a black female with a light complexion wearing a green tracksuit who is armed and fighting with another. Yeah, she had her gun. She had her gun. So she had a gun. The girl on the bus is not being truthful. I ride this bus without earphones, and you can hardly understand other people talking because the bus makes too much noise. Yeah, that's what they're trying to say as well. And I even showed y'all the video. I did a video of a CTA bus. Let's go to, I don't know about the video I'm going to go to, but I'm going to go to... So do y'all hear that? And this bus is pretty much empty. This bus only have a few people on there. So can you imagine more people on there? Now, I don't know if people be talking on the bus or not. I probably won't be having no conversation on no bus. But this bus is only like 1 or 2 people on there. So let me answer this person right here. Steve says, how y'all gonna tell a person they didn't hear or see what they saw? Make it make sense. Everybody hearing is not the same. So we're not just saying, and I hope you really understand this, Steve, that we're not just saying that she didn't hear or see what she say she heard or saw, because that would be ignorant to say that. It's the evidence that goes along with it, okay? She was spotted on the bus. She looked out the window for 9 seconds, and then she turned her head forward. She is recorded on the bus wearing over-the-ear headphones on the bus. And if she heard and saw what she say she heard and saw, she held no reaction at that time. That is proven by video evidence. Then when she got off the bus, which is 350 feet away from the crime scene, she walked forward in order to cross the street. And when the shots were fired and the pod cameras came on, she was spotted behind a building near the CTA Green Line. So that is nowhere near the scene, because this lady actually said she saw blood gush out of Romika's mouth as she falls to the ground. So it's not just we're saying, oh, she didn't hear and she didn't see. It's the other evidence that comes along with it, okay? So no one is just saying, oh, she didn't hear that, she didn't see that. It's everything combined. You have to take all of it together like you're making a meatball, right? Your onions, your bell pepper, your seasoning, your crackers, and all that egg or whatever. And you put it all together, and then that's when you come up with a determination that it would be difficult for her to see and hear what she say she heard and saw. All right? I hope I answered your question. She said, this is terrible. The state definitely playing with this girl's freedom. Absolutely, they are. So anyway, but I let y'all hear what it sounds like on a bus. And this is just, CTA bus in Chicago. And this bus is not even driving. It seems like this bus, okay, is it driving? Let me see.
And expected mothers.
So now it's driving. Oh, this looks like somebody walking. I was gonna say, is this somebody driving? Hold on. Oh, okay. But anyway, so y'all know what y'all can look it up and see what a CTA bus sound like. I put it in one of my videos before, and it was pretty loud to me. In her defense, if her defense ever had to put the jury on that bus with or without headphones, the state would lose. The bus are loud, especially that time of the day when the event occurred. Yeah. And cars around and all that stuff. Too much reasonable doubt. There is a lot of reasonable doubt. I'm going to totally agree that there is a lot of reasonable doubt in this case. And the state knows this. The state knows this, Someone said it best yesterday. They said, I think that they banked on Holly taking a plea deal. And that's why they put first degree, because first degree is, she could possibly get life or so. And so I think that they banked on her taking a plea deal, being a new mom and not wanting to be away from her baby or whatever for too long. I think they banked on her taking a plea deal, but we'll see. We have to continue to just look and see. She said, y'all sound crazy. These people don't have a dog in the fight. How all the witnesses' statements pretty much line up versus witness number one. So everybody's lying but Carlos. They don't line up. That's the thing, though. This just because the states say they line up, they don't. They do not line up. I went over that before. Witness one, Carlos, he has a statement. Witness two, DoorDash driver. He said he didn't see shit except for them arguing and that Carlos was standing in the middle of them and he had to extend his arms and push Holly back. Okay, that's witness number two. DoorDash driver say he didn't see nothing, right? Besides just Carlos standing in between them, right? And then witness number three is the one that said they saw everything, but she was the one tracked all the way from Chinatown, and her whereabouts just does not add up to what it is that she says she saw. And she's the one that said she saw everything. You can't say you saw everything and you're so far away from the crime scene, okay? And then there's other witnesses that's not even in the proffer that actually was much, much closer that said they didn't see shit or hear shit, right? That's witness number three. Witness number four pretty much said the only thing that he saw, well, actually said two things. He said that he saw Carlos holding her and her arms are flailing in the air, but he also said, what y'all? That when she pulled up, she jumped out the car. She said, jumped out the car and said, you motherfuckers, and blah, blah, blah. I'm pretty sure you heard my video on that. That number four said that Romika got out on demon time. And because she saw who? Holly. She got out on demon time and said that Carlos was pushing her back saying, no, stop. Trying to stop her from what? From getting at Holly. That's what witness number four says, right? And then witness number five says, oh, I was driving. I saw a little bit while I was driving. And then I saw a little bit more from my window at my workplace. Ari had already said she's not credible because Ari knows where she worked. And Ari went down to her workplace and stood in the lobby and said, you cannot see what she says she saw from her workplace. So how is all four of the witnesses saying the same thing? They're not. Just because the state is saying that they say that they're saying the same thing does not mean that they are saying the same thing. Stop bringing up the videos in the chat. If the videos prove otherwise, Holly would not be in jail. Oh, you sound dumb, Steve. You sound real dumb. You sound so dumb. You sound so dumb. If that's the case, then why did appellate court say we got the videos? Holly is in jail because the circuit court judge agreed with the proffer. Okay? So when she gets out, what are you going to say then? When she gets out on appeal, Steve, what are you going to say? Oh my God, they believe it. And how are you going to say, stop bringing up the videos? You sound very ignorant. Go back to school. All right, so next, but the whole event was only 4 minutes, so we know witness 5 is a whole lie. Exactly, a whole lie, all right? Don't fight with Steve in the comments, you guys. That person is very ignorant, and then they want to just start mess, okay? So don't fight with them. You know, out of every 10 people in the world, you're going to have somebody ignorant as fuck, all right? So that's a lie in Chicago. A fight is a fight, which means hands got thrown. No, somebody was telling me, though. They was like, a fight in Illinois is an argument. So I don't know. I said, well, it's a fight. The status is full of shit. They literally only trying to keep her because of the outrage because they didn't actually know the truth. The state. I think you meant the state. The state. I've never seen anything more sloppy case than this. If this case was in a state where I live, Holly wouldn't have been charged. They don't play blocking people in and stalking people. And what I noticed, the state is still trying to say she was not blocked in, but, you know, Ari is adamant that she was blocked in, okay? They acting like Holly is about to be just out here unaliving any and everybody. Yeah, they tried to paint that picture. They definitely tried to paint that picture that she's just out here trying to just unalive everybody. Amora, they are here to distract you and get you to curse them out. It's okay. You know, I don't mind cussing a motherfucker out. Shit. That's my freedom of speech. She said, that's okay. I just sent him the color in the corner. Oh, well, Cheryl got his ass up out of here then. See, I wasn't even going to get him up out of here. Well, Steve, happy coloring. Happy coloring. You know, I don't mind. I don't mind cussing nobody out. Shit, you come up in my chat acting a fool, you're going to get cussed out. But nevertheless, a fight is a struggle or clash between opposite sides, which can involve physical force, weapon, or heated words, such as an argument. Okay, so the dispatcher say fighting. The dispatcher says fighting. So we're going to let the courts determine what that means, whether it was a fight or whether it wasn't. But I noticed that they didn't say anything about her hair being disheveled. I noticed they didn't say nothing regarding that, you know, the state. So, I mean, that's what we had. Let me see if, is there any other filings? Because, you know, the state be ready to fire back oh, so you remember yesterday I pointed out to you guys that the state asked the appellate court to deny Ari an opportunity to reply? They did. They want the the appellates to deny her an opportunity to even reply. They like, don't let her say shit else. Let's just get this shit going. Hold on, y'all. All right, let me just see what's going on. She says, Steve, let us know if you stayed in the lines. That's too funny. Y'all hit the thumbs up button for your girl, please, and thank you. And no, so Ari has not said anything. The appellate court has not said anything, and that's where we are, y'all. That's where we at right now. So right now, the state has said the last words, and the appellate court will be responding to find out whether or not they're going to let Ari say anything. I don't even know if Ari wants to say anything, because if you look at it, the state, the only thing that they cleared up was just that there is video footage, you know? That there is video footage. Dakota, the police report said battering. Yep. And this person said the 911 call said battery in progress as well. Came in as a battery in progress. Let's listen to it again.
Here's a smooth, polished version with a natural flow and clear pacing. We have 2 calls on the board. The first call came in as a battery in progress at Cermak and State. It reports 1 male and 2 females fighting outside in the street, involving a white car and a black car on the scene. A second call is now coming in reporting a person with a gun at 2200 South State. The description is a black female with a light complexion, wearing a green tracksuit, who is armed and fighting with another black female with a darker complexion, identified as an occupant of a white car.
So battery in progress. The first one came in, battery in progress. And then the police report said a battery that escalated to, it said an argument that escalated into Holly being battered, or Ramika battering Holly, or something like that, it said. She said the state never intended to pick this case up, but the public was harassing them, and I heard Ari gets good plea deals. So as I stated before, they was like, oh yeah, her lawyer will take a plea. Yeah, I do believe that they were banking on her to take a plea deal. I do believe that. I believe they were banking on her to take a plea deal, and it just didn't work out in their favor. So now they have to actually fight this case. So I still believe, like I said before, that there is enough reasonable doubt for her to not be found guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. That's me. I'm standing with it for right now until I see something different. I don't think the state case is as strong as a lot of people are trying to make it seem like. A lot of people are like, oh no, the witnesses got to be correct. Why would they come in here and say things like that? They got to be correct. And I just do not think that the witnesses are strong enough right now to prevent or take away reasonable doubt. I just don't think so. I absolutely do not think so. So for right now, I'm going to say, of course, we still have to wait. But I do still think it looks good for Holly release from detention pre-trial. I think that she's going to be released. That's what I think. She said the video of the witnesses on the bus, any video of Holly hair was before being attacked. Yes, they have video footage of that as well. They have video footage of her coming downstairs, getting into the car, and they see her hair and it's intact. perfect ponytail. And I say perfect, but you know, just a nice ponytail. But afterwards, as she was getting detained, her hair was disheveled. So there is a difference of her hair before and after. So whether the courts want to take that in consideration, we'll find out soon. But Ari definitely pointed that out in her motion. I believe they were fighting to keep her held as long as possible so they can offer a plea for lesser charges and no jail time served. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think that she's going to take a plea, but I wouldn't if I was her, because it's so much reasonable doubt that I believe that Ari will win this without a plea. She said the state was banking on a plea. They didn't think Ari would fight. Yeah, I think you're right, April. I think you're right. I think they were banking on a plea. That didn't happen. You know? So that's what we are, guys. That's what we are. This case is getting good. It's getting good. So again, you know, I'm not going to stay on long because I'm going to hop back on later. I have another story that I want to bring to you guys. So if you want to come back at 7:30-ish Central Time, which is 8:30 Eastern Standard. Oh, I do have some good news though. And I may come back live just on my phone. Matter of fact, I'll do that. I'll come back live on my phone and give you guys the good news. I'm not gonna give it to you on this live. So, but this will just be me on my phone, and it'll probably be like 10, 20 minutes. I'm gonna do it from laying in my bed. So anyway, y'all, hit that thumbs up button. Oh, thank you for the love shared on this live stream. Thank you, Binky Bink. I appreciate the love. Thank you, Lavette, for the love. Meg, thank you so much for the love. My big sis, Glenn, thank you so much. And Candy Girl, she said, we set and make goals over here. Amore does research and studies before bringing us the tea. Instead of hating, take notes and learn. Just like we tip those that bring us services, we should support and show her love. Oh, thank you so much, Candy. I appreciate that. I do. She said a plea can come at any time. Yeah. But I don't think she's going to take a plea. I don't think so. I don't think that she should either. She says, Ari not taking no plea or asking for one shows. Wait a minute. Ari not taking a plea or asking for one shows. She believes her client, or asking for one. This shows that she believes her client and she believes that they will win. And I believe that also. Yeah, me too, Kathleen. Listening from the Virgin Islands. Hey, from the Virgin Islands. What's going on? She said, did you check the court? Did I check which court, Kimberly T? Which court, baby? Let me know. You mean in Brianna's case? Is that what you're talking about? In Brianna's case? Hey, Wanda, she said, Battle Buddy, what I don't understand is how can a first time seeing a person result in an unaliving of an individual? Me personally, having a conflict via words should result in gunfire. I understand what you're saying, but if a person has been threatening you for a while and threatened that they're gonna, it's on site. When I see you, I'm gonna kill you. And they call your grandmother. We found out that it was more than one time. We thought it was just one, but it was multiple times that she called her grandmother and threatened to unalive her. So just because you see them one time in person does not mean that you have not endured a lot of threats, So just let me give you an example. So you know how these internet bullies always threaten to do this. I'm pull up, and I'm gonna do this to you, I'm gonna do that to you. So we argue back and forth with them online, but you never see them until you see them. And then if they try to do something like that, then you take their lights out. So what I'm saying is just seeing a person for the first time does not necessarily mean that they are not there, especially when they came uninvited, does not mean that they are not there to do exactly what they said that they were going to do. So in this case, she, it appears that when she saw her, she wanted to carry out what she already said that she was going to do multiple times. So seeing somebody for the first time, not seeing somebody for the first time, don't necessarily mean that you are safe. Oh, Oh, Las Vegas court. Kimberly, is that what you're asking me about? Did you check the court? Yeah, I checked the court. That's what I'm gonna come back and tell y'all when I come back live. I thought you were talking about Brianna and the truth. Their situation, the paperwork should be coming real soon. So we'll just have to wait and see. She said Holly is coming home. I do believe Holly is coming home too. But, I don't want to say 100% because I said 100% the last time. And y'all know I had to put my whole foot down my throat. I had to get it out from my esophagus. But on this one right here, I do believe that, I believe she's coming home. I believe she's coming home to fight from the comfort of her own home. And just because she come home does not mean that, the case is over. She still has to fight. But I do believe that she will be able to fight from, finish fighting from the comfort of her own home here real soon. So we'll see. We'll see. We will see. So, but y'all drop those white hearts for Holly. I still believe that none of this would have occurred if Ramika would not have pulled up, okay? Holly did not go to Ramika. Ramika came to Holly. Holly was just minding her business, trying to get her little piece over the weekend. She was not the one pursuing or harassing Ramika. It was the other way around. Ramika, and there's lots of text messages and voice notes or whatever, that Ramika was the one harassing Holly, not the other way around, okay? Now, in the beginning, Holly did try to engage with her after she contacted Holly first. Holly did not contact her first. She contacted Holly, but Holly tried to be respectful and have, engaging conversations with her or whatever, but Ramika took it the other way, okay? It was not, she was trying to be nice, trying to say, hey, we share a child together. We might as well try to get along together or whatever. But Ramika was not trying to do that. Y'all heard already, it came out that Ramika was contacting multiple men, not just one, but multiple men in Holly's friend group, friend list, and basically telling them that they are the father of Holly's child. Like, who does that? Randomly calling people that she does not know, get in contact with them via messenger, right? She called one guy 51 times. Who does that? Who calls someone 51 times on Valentine's Day? That young fella was with his wife, 51 calls in one day to try to convince him that he is the father of Holly's child. A man that said he never had sex with Holly. And he had issues with his wife that day because here's a strange woman harassing him, saying that you fathered a child, and his wife is right there with him. So she called multiple men in Holly's friend list, trying to tell them that they are the father of Holly's child because she did not want Holly's baby father, to be Carlos. Okay. And I know I've seen myself several messages, which I'm sure Ari has seen, where she is accusing Holly of breaking up her family and begging Carlos for her family back. Okay. She was begging to have her family back, and that blaming Holly for breaking up her family, knowing that Carlos has been with way more women during their time than just Holly. But she was able to run a lot of, majority of the women off, but she was not able to run Holly off. Unless the higher court is biased, Holly will be home to fight her case. The state clearly dropped the ball on this appeal to keep Holly detained. Kathleen, I do agree with you. I do believe they dropped the ball because in one response, they went heavy on the video footage. And then the next response, they tried to change it to now they only have witness credibility. Well, not even witness credibility, but witness accounts. They're saying witness accounts. Yes, 51 times that she called this strange man that she did not know. 51 times. So can you imagine how many times she's called Holly? But 51 times is she called this man 51 times. And it could have definitely caused problems in his marriage. But that was a disregard. She didn't care nothing about that. She just wanted to convince. That's impulsive behavior to me. She definitely wanted to convince this man, amongst others, that they were the father of Holly's child. Holly didn't even know that these people were being called until they turned around and text her and said, can you give me a call? Like, what the hell is going on? This person is calling me and saying that I'm the father of your child. Like, how embarrassing is that? But nevertheless, she said, to me, it sounds like the state is acting off of their feelings. I mean, at this point, the state picked up the case. So the state's trying to win the case. So the state's trying to do whatever they can to win the case. However, you know, they did get caught slipping, and Ari pointed it out, and you know, they got to stick to something. They got to stick to something. So that's where we are. That's where we at. So I'm going to hop off. Thank y'all so very much for being an excellent audience, as y'all always are. I appreciate you guys. Hit that thumbs up button on the way out. And yeah, I got a secret for y'all. So catch my next live stream and you will hear the good news. Talk to y'all later. Love y'all. Bye.
Because they can't make $1 without mentioning down one of our names.
Yay!
She kept talking about
We
that
got these
family.
hoes over there.
She kept talking about that family. She kept talking
Internet
about that
gangsters.
family. She kept talking about that family. She kept talking about that family. That family. She kept talking about that family. Talking about that family.
These motherfuckers don't be wanting to listen on damn body. Because they can't make $1 without mentioning down one of our